Hey guys, Jeremy here from School of What, Covent Garden. It is time for my fakeaway for your takeaway. And this week we've got a great suggestion from Nev Leaning, whose brother apparently lives in Japan and he can't stop talking about this dish. He always talks about this dish. And it's called tsukune, which is basically, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's essentially like a Japanese style yakitori kofta. But it's chicken meat. I'm gonna mince the chicken meat fresh because I feel that the minced, the sort of minced chicken that you buy in the shops is always a little bit tough and dry, and I'm definitely more of a fan of thigh. So I'm gonna put the thigh meat in, mince that up, a little bit more fat in there from the skin, and then we'll cook this all from scratch. Here we go. So if you've got a good food processor, it's actually pretty easy. I mean, you don't need a food processor for it, but it helps. I'm going to start with a base of ginger and spring onion. I'm going to blitz it all up along with the chicken and make this nice mince mix. A good amount of ginger and spring onion. I'm also going to put some sesame seeds into the mix here. I'll leave some to garnish later on. A good pinch of salt, white pepper, and then a teaspoon or so of sesame oil. Now I've got my chicken thigh, which I'll just chop up a little to help it out. And then I kept a couple of pieces of the chicken skin as well. And I'll just add a bit more fat to the meatballs. It's one of those dishes that needs to be really succulent when you bite into it. And I'm sure this is why Nev loves this dish so much. So we're gonna crack your egg and just use the egg yolk, and that'll just enrich the flavour of the meatballs essentially. So the egg yolk is going in. Gonna put a tablespoon of light soy into there. You don't want it too wet, so that should do it. I'm gonna make a teriyaki sauce later on as well. Now, time to blitz this up. So you should get this sort of slightly white, pasty texture. Once you've got that, that's pretty much there. Just a bowl of water here. And I'm going to get balls of my mix ready. They don't want to be too big, but also not sort of just bite size. Freshly minced chicken thigh like this really will hold a lot of juice and flavour into itself. And we're going to get a nice bit of sweetness from the actual teriyaki sauce that I'll make whilst these are cooking as well. And that teriyaki sauce you can either brush or just pour over the top of the meatballs just at the very end, and they'll take in a lot of the sweetness. And classically, your teriyaki, or your yakitori, sorry, you'd have most things on sticks. So we're going to do the same here with your meatballs or tsukune. So I've got a really hot pan here, and he's going to go straight on. You could do with brushing a little bit of oil over the top of them as well before you put them in the pan, especially if you're griddling them like I am. Pan frying, maybe not as important. So your teriyaki sauce, whilst those meatballs are cooking, Nice and simple one here. So 4 tablespoons of light soy. I'm going to go for a couple of tablespoons of dark soy because that's a Chinese dark soy and it's quite a lot more caramelized than your Japanese. And then a good couple of tablespoons of honey and 3 to 4 tablespoons of mirin. And that will give it plenty of liquid to sort of bubble up and cook these, or finish off the cooking of these chicken meatballs. The chicken should be sort of half cooked now, and I actually started this on a really high heat so that the chicken would sear straight away. And look at the colour of that. Beautiful. The fat in that freshly minced chicken thigh makes all the difference. So Nev, I hope you're happy about this, because I am getting hungry just looking at this and smelling it all. Now my teriyaki, that sort of glaze, I'm going to pour over the top in the last minute, and that will just steam it all through and cook it through very, very quickly without us having to cook it for too long. You could, as I say, brush this over the top, but the instant sort of steam that this will create will cook the chicken through really quickly and steam it through. So straight over the top. Move your hand out of the way because that will be really steaming hot, and then just let that bubble up nicely. About a minute or so and that chicken will cook through. If you want to turn the chicken to mop up sauce on both sides, that works a treat too. Oh, look at that. The whole idea of a sauce like this is it gets really, really sticky, but if you feel like it's getting too sticky and you still want to cook your chicken through, then your chicken stock's really good for that. So just thin that down with your chicken stock and it will caramelize again as you go. Kind of a bit of a cheats way of doing it, but it works. So, the easy way to sort of check whether your chicken's cooked through or not is it should kind of bounce back at you, kind of like a fish cake. And that texture in there is all down to use of that fresh chicken thigh meat. And my sauce, as you can see, it's not burning, it's just nicely caramelized. So that there is done. Really, actually quite simple, quick cooking. Sauce over the top of that. Look at that. Sesame seeds to finish just at the end. My fresh chicken mince tsukune, courtesy of Nev Leaning. So, it's so soft. And I didn't have to add any breadcrumbs or anything like that. It's just that blitzing of that fresh thigh and the mix of the sesame seeds in there as well. And the moisture or the wetness from the light soy. That makes it really, really simple. I can see why Nev likes this. Thanks again, Nev, for suggesting this. Tsukune, or this Japanese, kind of like Japanese kofta, Japanese street food with that yakitori on the stick and teriyaki sauce. Don't forget, if you want to suggest recipes just like Nev, then suggest away, but you've got to sign up on Patreon, and thanks to our Patreon supporters for allowing us to do this video.